Welcome to the NNN show, and I'm your host Chris Tysis, and we're here after a very busy week, first week of September, where Ninja News is doing really well, and we've had a Nintendo Direct, then we had a Pokemon trailer, and we've been very busy, lots of people watching us and enjoying stuff, and we're all having a bit of fun and things like that. And obviously with the conventions later on in the month, things are going to pick up steam even further and get even busier. So a lot of exciting things to happen for us. And I wasn't too sure what to talk about today in terms of content and things like that. And I thought we would talk about the sort of the special day here in Australia called RUOK, and it is a annual day in September dedicated to remind people to ask family, friends, and colleagues the question, "Are you okay?" in a meaningful way. Basically, it's by an organisation which is non-for-profit suicide prevention, which I think is a great idea. 65,000 Australians make a suicide attempt with an average of 2,320 people committing suicide every year. 45% of Australians will experience mental health in their lifetime, while 20% are affected every year. And this sort of website I'll provide to you later on talks about things that you can do to talk to people and things like that. And I know in the gaming community, I believe that gaming and depression can help each other, but can also hinder each other at different times. You know, people playing World of Warcraft may be a good thing or a bad thing, and things like that. And I've had clinical depression for many years, and doing things like Ninja News, as kind of stressful as it looks from the outside, it does bring me a sense of joy and happiness and things like that, and keeping my mind busy, you know, and keeping my mind off things that that are not very pleasant. And that is something that I enjoy doing on the show, and seeing, you know, people watch every day now, which is a really nice thing for me. And I know that there are people who battle with mental illnesses each day, and I think it's a really important thing for people to ask the question, because some people may look like they're okay. People wear the mask and pretend that, oh yeah, everything's okay, everything's fine, but really deep down it's not. And sometimes people find it very hard to approach others and things like that, especially if you're mainly do online gaming and things like that, you know. And there's ways to reach out, you know, on Facebook, on Steam chat, Discourse, Twitter, you know, even the Wii U chat, Messenger, things like that. There's all sorts of ways of opening up that dialogue, of talking about depression and mental illnesses and things like that. And it's an important thing, I think, with gamers and with all people, really, because I remembered I was you know, very depressed and doing forum boards and things like that, and I would spend my days waking up at probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and going to bed at 5, 6, probably 7 in the morning, doing forum boards and obsessing about statistics and things like that, and always trying to sort of you know, show to myself that if I can make successful forum boards and successful websites, then there's some sort of redeeming factor in me. And I think with Nintendo Ninja News, that sort of that mind thinking disappeared a lot, and I think a lot of the success of Nintendo Ninja News is not really stressing out about the small stuff, and just going with the flow and just doing something that you really enjoy passionately, as you can tell with the background stuff. I, it took me a long time to get to a stable condition, I would say, with my depression. And who knows, next week I might have a bad week, or next month, or next year. And it comes and goes like the tide at times, and it makes it really hard. And I think with depression, I think it's good for games to get out and be social, and I think games such as Pokemon Go are such excellent ideas, and there's been stories of that, about people mingling with people and socializing. Your local street pass groups are very good for that, because you have that face-to-face contact, even webcam in a way. Start up a Skype video and talk to people. That it may not be the real face-to-face, but it's probably the next best thing for a lot of people who stay at home and keep to themselves. And the outside world can be a bit scary for some. With suicides between 2001 and 2010, 22,526 suicide deaths were recorded, and they account for 1.7% of the 1.3 million deaths that was caused in Australia during that time. And that's a huge number. I know that there's been a lot of talk about domestic violence in Australia, and on average, that gets around between 50 to 100 deaths per year. And this is into the thousands, and it keeps on climbing, keeps on getting higher and higher, and it doesn't seem to be much of a solution. And people say suicide, but I believe that what the real death is being killed by depression and mental illness, because that's really the thing that does it. Suicide is really just a symptom of ongoing untreated or treated mental illness that just hasn't worked on that particular person, and it makes it really, really hard for them. And it is something that I think is really hard, and suicide is the biggest death between 15 to 34 to 45 for men. And for men, it is much, much harder to have that conversation. And maybe somewhere here on Nintendo Ninja News, we can have that little conversation too, and trying to get that awareness out. And this is basically an Australian sort of run thing, but you can do it in any country on any day of the year, and see what you can make of it. And I think for me, my depression is trying to I don't know. I think it's for how I keep my depression in check is not trying to stress out too much about things. If I'm doing too many videos or I'm thinking too much about the show, I take a bit of time off. I do some video gaming. I do writing, because I'm a writer as well. And I go out for a walk, and I just have a bit of fresh air, and I try to do different hobbies and things like that, different things. I've got books and colouring ins. You can do some drawing ins and things like that. Just something that takes your mind off stuff, and it could be anything that you want. And for those who really are struggling, there's always professional help out there. There's Lifeline for Australian people, and things like that. I'm sure that there are services out there in America for people in America, UK, Asia, all different countries will have something for people to get help on. So I guess that's all I've got to say on the matter. And I guess you can write in the comments and things like that about what you feel about mental illness and gaming, and has gaming helped you deal with depression and other mental illnesses, or have you felt like video gaming has caused issues with you at times? And that's a really interesting discussion that we could have. But I guess for me, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling happy, which is great. You know, Ninja News is doing great. Fan base is happy. I'm happy. Conventions happening. It's going to be stressful, but I will take it a step at a time. And it's not, looking at the whole 2-3 weeks of those conventions and going, oh shit, what have I got to do? I've got to work out videos. I've got to work out people and this and that. Sometimes you just got to take a minute at a time or an hour at a time. And when you just look at that hour at a time, it doesn't seem as big as the next 2 or 3 weeks or the next 6 months or the rest of your life. So it's just taking that step at a time. So that is it for me from this episode, and I shall see you later on.